A very good afternoon to one and all who has joined us in this online meeting for the first session of short-term training program of fourth day. And as all of us are aware, it is an All India Council for Technical Education sponsored. It is an All India Council for Technical Education sponsored 1 week short-term training program on biotechnology and its application in tribal agriculture areas. Our honorable guest for today's session is Dr. Harit Jha sir. We would like to take this opportunity to introduce our honorable resource person. Dr. Harit Jha sir is professor in Department of Biotechnology of Guru Ghasidas Vishwavidyalaya, Bilaspur. He has completed a PhD in biochemistry from Rashtra Sant Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University. He has qualified SET lecturership from Maharashtra in February 2002 and CSIR UGC NET lecturership in June 2002. He has published more than 30 papers in national and international journals. He has also jointly authored 2 books. They are named as Antioxidants, Source, Activity and Applications, and Lignocellulose based Composites and Biopolymers. Several projects that have been sanctioned and completed under his leadership include CCUST funded project worth 5 lakhs rupees on lignocellulose polylactic acid based composites for multifaceted applications, a 3-year project on application of acacia and rice husk lignin in the synthesis of biopolymers, biofilms, and resins, which was a project worth rupees 11 lakhs 26,000. He is also a group leader in the 5 years project on microbial technology under DBT Builder scheme to boost interdisciplinary education and research in School of Life Sciences, Biotechnology, Botany, Zoology, DBT. And this project was worth rupees 3 crore 69 lakhs and 80,000. Then he has successfully completed a 3-year UGC funded project worth rupees 10 lakh 4,000 on processing optimization of conditions for extraction and purification of lignin from agro and forest wastes using physico-chemical and biological approaches. Furthermore, he was deputy coordinator in a UGC SAP2 DRS1 worth rupees 87 lakhs 50,000 for Department of Biotechnology of Guru Ghasidas Vishwavidyalaya. Dr. Jha is also a PhD guide. As on date, 3 PhDs have been awarded under his guidance. His expertise has earned him to be a reviewer for international journals like Material Science and Engineering, International Journal of Biological Macromolecules, Chemosphere, Romanian Journal of Biotechnology, Pharmaceutical Biology, Journal of Nanoparticle Research of Bioresources, etc. Well, I must say, Dr. Harit Jha sir, it is a matter of great delight for all of us to have you as our resource person today. And may I now request you, sir, to please start the session.
Very good afternoon to all the participants. And thank you for inviting me for this particular talk. Today I'll be speaking on the topic which I have mentioned, that is multifaceted applications of agroforestry waste lignin. I hope my slide is visible to you all.
Yes, sir, the slide is visible.
So what exactly I'll be talking about is how exactly we can utilize the agroforestry waste, etc., including the different components of this agroforestry waste, which are a major renewable source and a major carbon compound, which can be converted into a variety of different products. So we can move on from petroleum or shell-based economy to the agricultural economy. And as we have already seen, the major distress caused to the economy, especially the agrarian economy, is due to lack of proper income. That is, the amount of income generated by the farmers is less. And being a agrarian economy, especially where 25% of the GDP comes from farmers, and the land holding is less than 1 hectare. In that case, you need to improve the financial condition of farmers. You need to provide them alternate route of income. as well as for industry, especially the industries which are based on agrarian produce, where the agro waste or lignocellulosic waste is in bulk, especially the sugarcane industry or paper industry, etc. So that bulk of waste should be also utilized, and that should also provide them the alternate source of income that will make the industry much more profitable as well as economical. Now, for that, I've worked mostly on lignin, so I'll talk more about that. There are other products also, uh, but I've had an opportunity to work on xylene, which is another hemicellulose. But my main focus was on lignin. Now, how this there are different sources of biomass from which which can be utilized for a variety of carbon-based economy that includes forestry, crops and residues, the agriculture crops and residues, sewage, then industrial residues, animal residues, and municipal solid waste. Now, coming to the agro waste, especially the agricultural operation produce large amount of byproduct that have low economical value. For example, the rice straw, wheat straw, husk, stems, barley straw, grass seed straw, flax coil seed, then corn stalk, sorghum stalk, sugarcane bagasse, reeds, hemp fiber, sabai grass, cotton staples, stem fibers, etc. Some of these waste is utilized as fertilizer, fodder, or as fuel. A large quantity remains improperly utilized. I will not say unutilized, but a large quantity remains improperly utilized. A strategy is required to convert this so-called waste into value-added product. The process for this conversion should be technological, efficient, economical, and with ease of operation, so that a common farmer should be able to optimally utilize its resources to generate secondary income of source of income. Now we have already seen that the problem related to when we are using the harvester in large scale, the stubble burning is causing a major issue, and even if you keep a large amount of fine for that particular thing, still the farmers don't have much of options available. So you need to provide those options by which whatever is coming out from the agricultural land should be properly utilized. So these are the traditional uses of agro waste as a fuel uh, and as fodder, especially, and in some industries for making particle boards, etc. Now, when you look into the composition of the agro waste, lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose, and some other components are present. So the major component obviously is cellulose, and then lignin and hemicelluloses are there. So cellulose is mostly in the form of uh, fibers, and these fibers, as you can see, they are microfibers. It is composed of cellulose molecules and cellulobiomes. So these cellulobases, they form the cellulose by forming the glycosidic linkages, form long microfibril-like long structures which are not easy to break, and they provide the mechanical strength to the plant, to the plant secondary cell wall also. And attached to this particular cellulose fibers are the hemicelluloses, and around them the lignin, as we have seen in this diagram. Okay, so lignin also binds the cellulose and hemicelluloses, and also helps in providing the strength to the plants. So especially the large plants and angiosperms, they have the higher lignin content, and because their height is also quite high, they have, and besides that, they have to also take care of many pathogenic attacks which occur in to them in especially the tropical conditions. So lignin or polyphenol is a polyphenol, and it helps in providing the strength. Cellulose obviously is a main source of carbon, and cellulose is also important in the pulp and paper industry, fiber industry, etc. So we have seen the structure. So beta 1,4 linkage is there, and due to which the linear chain of several hundred to over 10,000 linked glucose units are present. Hemicelluloses are a mixture of different type of polysaccharides, such as arabinoxylans are there, xylans are there, glucoxylan is there, glucomannan is there, xyloglucan are there. So these polysaccharides contain many different type of sugar monomers, in contrast to cellulose, which only contain anhydrous glucose. So, for instance, besides glucose, sugar monomers in hemicellulose can include xylose, mannose, galactose, rhamnose, and arabinose. Hemicelluloses contain most of the D-pentose sugar and occasionally small amount of L sugar as well. Xylose is always the sugar monomer present in the largest amount, but manuronic acid and galacturonic acid are also present. Now, this besides xylene, then lignin is present. Uh, Xylene and hemicelluloses. The another major component in the plants or aggrovase is lignin. Lignin is the second most abundant natural polymeric carbon source in the world. Lignin is a three-dimensional network built-up of dimethoxylated seronyl, monomethoxylated guacyl, and non-methoxylated parahydroxyphenyl phenylpropanoid units. And these are derived from a corresponding hydroxycinnamyl alcohol, which give rise to various subunits, including different ether and carbon-carbon bonds. So, depending upon type of plant, and the monomer and their percentage may vary. And the lignin is normally synthesized with the help of different enzymes like peroxidases and oxidases, which through a free radical mediated process can convert the and catalyze the catalysis of the और भी एक कोई वीडियो का है the catalysis of different type of monomers so as to form the uh, polymeric lignin. Okay. Now this huge amount of this lignin can be converted to different type of value-added products, including biofuels, chemicals, cheap energy, etc., which I'll be discussing about also. They can be also degraded using lignolytic enzyme so that the feed become much more useful, edible for the animals, and they can be converted into chemicals, fuels, food, polymers, etc. They are undesired material in the pulp and paper industry and agriculture. In fact, when I started my work, my PhD was on microbial degradation of lignin. So for me, it was an undesired product. From we wanted to degrade it from sugarcane, bagasse, and other plant-based sources, so that the cellulose can be easily extracted. And we have isolated few fungi and their enzymes, which were used for breakdown of the lignin. And delignification and biopulping and biobleaching and decolorization and breakdown of the craft liquor from the craft effluent, that is the effluent coming from paper mill. This was what we have studied during the my work in the PhD. So my aim was to uh, uh, break the lignin to uh, break to utilize the lignin in such a manner that it is removed from the system, and the pure cellulose can be utilized. We have also tried the uh, hemicellulose, especially the xylanase, because xylanase also form a kind of link between cellulose and lignin. And by breakdown of that cellulose and lignin, we can easy, ease the lignin removal process. Now, so the aim was to remove lignin to degrade lignin so that the cellulose can be further purified. So in that course of we have also used sugarcane bagasse and other sources for making the paper also, the paper sheets. We tested its property and how exactly after removal of lignin by chemical process or by the biotechnological process by using enzymes and fungi, which process will help us in having a better cellulose extraction. Uh, our idea or hypothesis was that by using the enzyme-based systems or microbial system, uh, the lignin removal will be relatively more specific. Uh, if you have the cellulase mutant, or you can suppress the cellulase enzyme. In that case, the lignin removal can be more specific, and thereby it will not be disturbing the cellulose structure and the cellulose microfiber, which normally get disrupted and deteriorated during the harsh chemical extraction processes. So we had some success in that direction. I'll be also, during the course of this presentation, discussing not only the generalized applications of the lignin, which are there in the industry and in research field, but also what we have experienced, how exactly we have utilized the lignin for different applications, how we have gone for extraction of lignin and then utilization of the lignin for different applications. So I'll be discussing one by one all those applications through my publications in which we have discussed those particular applications. Okay. Now, talking of lignin, various value-added chemicals and products can be obtained from lignin. Examples are syngas, example like ethyl alcohol, methyl alcohol, dimethyl ether, and mixed liquid fuels. Hydrocarbons like cyclohexane and higher alkyl leads, then phenolic compounds and oxidized products like dimethyl vanillin, vanillic acid, and other aromatic and aliphatic acids. Macromolecules like activated carbon, carbon fibers, adhesives, resins, polymer alloys, polyelectrolytes, nutraceuticals, and drugs. Then wood preservatives, substituted lignins, thermosets, and composite materials. So this is a endless list. Then moreover, lignins are also used in foams, dispersant, emulsifier, and emulsion stabilizers, binding, sorbents, wood like thermoplastics, ion exchange resins, water treatment like softening of hard water, then pesticide, further for sequestering agents, animal feed, grinding aids, and concrete additives. So it's like the best part about lignin is that it is polyphenolic in nature. Being polyphenolic nature, it has certain therapeutic role also, and it is not in a way uniform structure because of free radical mediated non-specific uh, uh, polymerization process. So the lignin which we extract from different plants will have a specific structure based on their cellulose and hemicellulose background. And and now when this lignin is produced, you can chop off that particular lignin as per your need. You can modify this lignin as per need into different useful products. We'll be discussing that also. So you have the ability to modify a single compound into a variety of products. The reason being that it contains multiple functional groups. So it can be methoxy groups, and methyl groups are there, phenolic groups are there, phenolic hydroxyl groups are there, ethanolic hydroxyl groups are there, quinones are there. So many a variety of products are present, functional groups are present in the lignin. Now, as I was discussing, the profitable utilization of this lignin can be possible by various chemical modification process. This include alkylation or arylation to produce ethers, carboxylation to form esters, polymeric condensation products with phenols, aldehydes, and amines, phenol derivatives with a salt of uh, heavy metals, nitration, halogenation, including chlorination, chlorobromination. In fact, this chlorination is one of the process which is utilized for delignification in pulp and paper industry, and it is also used for bleaching of uh, uh, the pulp. So the bleaching can be achieved using the bleaching powder, which contain the chlorine containing which is a chlorine containing compound, or by using the pure chlorine gas, which is relatively a toxic gas. So, halogenation helps in removal of the lignin, and then further modification can be also created to make it more reactive. Then oxidation, oxyalkylation of oxidation of again is used in many cases for the bleaching of the pulp using hydrogen peroxide or ozone, although it is relatively costly process, but because the hydrogen peroxide and ozone cannot be recycled but easily, but they have relatively less toxic byproduct, and that is why it is preferred in a large scale industry where the halogenation or use of harsh chemical is not permitted. Now, the other modification of the lignin include the demethylation, sulfonation, or sulfomethylation to produce lignin sulfonates and many other unit processes. Now, some of these processes are already established in industry, but the majority of these are yet to be developed in commercial scale. Now, coming to the different kind of compounds which can be produced. Although the phenols are commercially available from petroleum industry, the lignin can serve as an alternative source for production of various phenolic compounds. Now, lignins and phenolic compounds derived from it can substitute petroleum-derived phenol for various industrial applications such as adhesive resins and surfactants. The potential application of lignin-derived phenolic compounds are in agriculture sector for making herbicides, in leather industry for tanning of the animal hides. We normally use tannin for or tannic acid for in the leather industry. That is why the whole process is also known as tanning. So lignin can also similarly precipitate the proteins and help in the removal of the animal hairs from the animal hides. Then food, cosmetic and pharmaceutical industries are those where the lignin-derived phenolic compounds can be used. Some of the examples include the vanillin, vanillic acid, grisols, coniferols, eugenol, and synenol, which are the important phenol derived from lignin. Another lignin-derived phenolic compound is glycol, which acts as precursor to other phenols such as eugenol, and vanillin. Glycol is one of the substances responsible for flavor of roasted coffee. Glycol is and its derivatives are also used in the pharmaceutical industry as expectorants, antiseptics, and local anesthetics. Now, glycol is a very interesting compound. If you go through literature, you'll find that smoked taste which comes from most of the food is due to glycol. So glycol is one of the compounds which gives that smoked flavor to most of the food. Then vanilla and natural flavoring agent is mainly extracted from vanilla plant, but this vanillin, which is 4-hydroxy-3-methoxybenzaldehyde, also known as vanillic and aldehyde and vanillic acid, are also derived from the lignin and are used as alternatives to vanilla extract. These compounds are used in the food industry as a flavoring agent and in cosmetic industry for fragrance and in pharmaceutical industry. Now, another application of the lignin is the lignin-based composites. So, the softwoods and what exactly are composites? Composites are normally compounds or mixture rather. They are derived from mixing of different type of compound which improve the strength, overall strength. For example, concrete is a composite in which you use cement and gravel and sand and allow them to mix and then set. After which the strength of the cement improves multifold. Similarly, the composites are those particular mixtures in which through covalent and non-covalent interactions the compounds may interact with each other and synergistically improve the overall strength and other desired properties. Now, softwood and hardwood are good source of natural cellulose and lignocellulose fibers. Non-wood lignocellulose fibers can be isolated from different parts of plants such as leaf, bast, inner bark, seed, and fruit. Leaf fibers are isolated from leaf of abaca, banana, cora, pineapple, sisal, etc. Now, these fibers can be obtained from different sources like wheat, rice, oat, straw, sugarcane, bagasse, etc. Normally, these wood and non-wood lignocellulose fibers are used for making paper in pulp industry and for making biocomposites. These biocomposites can be used in making automotive components, non-food packaging, and for biomedical engineering. Now, uh, lignins are combined with polymers to increase the mechanical and other physical property of the combined material. Being an antioxidant agent, lignin can be also used as stabilizer to prevent or reduce the aging of polymers. The lignin has been reported to improve the properties of various biopolymers such as starch and gelatin and synthetic polymers such as polyvinyl alcohol, polyethylene, polylactic acid, polyvinyl chloride, etc. It is also used as filler in phenol, formaldehyde resin, and polyurethane. Uh, so lignin, as we have already discussed in plant structure, has a polyphenolic structure and has a large molecular weight, and because of its multiple functional groups and reactive nature, it can interact with many different compounds and different fibers simultaneously. So it can interact with different polymers and fibers in multiple sites simultaneously. So when it helps to bind these polymers to help to stabilize these polymers and thereby help in improving their strength and other properties. And being an antioxidant it can also provide help in reducing the aging of those particular polymers. And having antimicrobial property also, it can thwart the attack of the microbial pathogen. So these are thereby the lignins are can be preferred and useful in the composite step. For activated carbons also, the lignin can be processed to obtain activated carbons by physical and chemical activation process. Uh, Excellent absorption property of this activated carbon fibers make them useful in various industrial applications. These activated carbons are used for treatment of sewage and other liquid as well as for gaseous effluent. Activated carbon derived from lignin can be used for gas and water purification. They are used in decaffeination, metal extraction, finishing of metal for purification of electroplating solutions, making air filters for gas masks and respirators, medicine and pharmaceutical industry, adsorption of bacteria, adsorption of volatile heavy metals, and combustion products generated by the waste incineration. Now, the aromatic structure and numerous functional groups of lignin has attracted increasing attention for its effective utilization in film forming, development of polymers, adhesives, coatings, additives, uh, carbon fibers, activated carbon, and as corrosion inhibitors. So, the addition of the lignin enhances the hydrophilicity, biocompatibility, biodegradability, and thermal stability of the composites. Lignin thus find application as plasticizer in composites. Now, what are the plasticizers? Basically, what happens in the that when the monomers start polymerizing in many cases, especially the hydrophilic monomers, they tend to excessively polymerize and form clumps. Now, to avoid this clumping or aggregation and to make the whole process of polymerization relatively uniform, you add plasticizers. These plasticizers tend to restrict the and regulate the process of polymerization and formation of the help in formation of uniform polymeric structures. Different type of lignins are used for synthesis of interpenetrating polymer network. For instance, lignin and xanthan gum has been used as super absorbent hydrogel. And due to its antioxidant properties, it is also blended with many polymer matrices like polystyrene, polypropylene, and natural rubber. So you can add lignin as an additive in these polymer matrices so that their properties improve, their aging is delayed, and strength properties are further improved. So there are many applications of lignin, like they can be used for biopolymer formation, like biofilm, resins, foam, and as antioxidant, uh, as antimicrobial, as plant growth promoter, as metal ion chelating agent, as surfactant, and for synthesis of nanofibers, carbon nanotubes. Then they can be useful in synthesis of aerogel, hydrogel, and composites. Now, why it is used, we already discussed about biopolymer and we'll be further discussing that. Now, as antioxidant effect, as I already discussed that it is a large molecule and has relatively aromatic structure. And that is why when any oxidizing agent and oxidizing enzyme system interacts with it, it can readily donate electrons. And that is why it can protect other molecules from getting oxidized and has high antioxidant activity. We also measured that and assessed the antioxidant activity from different plant sources, and by after different extraction processes. And we have also tried to modify the lignin so as to use that biotransformed lignin as a source of antioxidants. Uh, as far as the antimicrobial activity is known, it is well established. In plant system also, it helps to uh, protect the plants from attack of the plant pathogens. Uh, in a way, it is anti-nutritional in nature also, and lignin and its byproduct tend to inhibit many of the enzymes, including the amylase, protease, etc., which are required by the pathogen for their survival. They also help in plant growth promotion. We'll see that by activation of the plant system, by activation of their plant root system, and having their similarity with the humic acid and fulvic acid, etc. In fact, it has been suggested in literature that out of the total humic acid and fulvic acid or humus which is formed, a large proportion also comes from the lignin. Now, uh, they can also act as a metal insulating agent because of their multiple charge structure. They tend to bind the cationic metal ions easily. They can act as the surfactant because they uh, interfere with the non-covalent interaction. They interfere with the hydrogen bonds and thereby affect the surface tension also. And thus they can be used as a surfactant for changing the surface tension or interfacial tension between two different liquid layers. They are used for synthesis of nanofibers, about which I'll be discussing a bit in detail because we have published some work on that also. They can be used as hydrogel and aerogel. We have synthesized those gels using lignin, and uh, they have an important application as the composite. So these are, and as we have discussed, that lignin can be broken down using a variety of the oxidative microbial conversion and enzymatic oxidation, pyrolysis, thermolysis to compounds like phenols, acetic acid, acetylene, phenolic acid, catechol, vanillic acid, ferulic acid, fumaric acid, dimethyl sulfoxide, etc. So one lignin can be a source of a variety of products. The only thing is that you need to modify the process by which you want a specific byproduct. I think this slide is not proper, but this is the market share or revenue share for different product at the global level. For example, the animal feed, how exactly the lignin is utilized for different applications, and what is their product share or the revenue share globally. So as you can see that a large proportion is used as carbon fiber. Then the vanillin is also being produced using this particular compound. Uh, Animal feed is a large share, and the phenols, plastic, polymers, activated carbon, etc., are also produced using this particular system. Okay, just correct. Okay, next slide. These are some of the companies which are working on lignin and their products. Here we'll see just an example of how exactly an integrated process can be created for utilization of lignocellulose, including the cellulose, hemicellulose and the lignin. Here we can see that the lignin rich fraction and cellulose rich fraction has been removed by the chemical process. The cellulose rich fraction is treated with the cellulase so that the glucose is formed or the saccharification of it. And its sugar-based building blocks can be utilized for synthesis of a variety of products. The lignin, which is separated during this fractionation process, is then degraded with the help of enzymes like lactase and peroxidase. And these degradation products are then used as a precursor of a variety of value-added chemicals. Okay, this is one example how the biofuel production can be done by treatment of a particular lignocellulosic waste. So in this, we can take raw biomass, hydrolyze it so that the lignin, cellulose, and other components can be separated. And after hydrolysis, which can the hydrolysis can be achieved by a variety of means, including use of acid, strong acids, and bases, or the uh, gases. After the this harsh treatment of hydrolysis, you can go obtain the saccharified raw biomass, and that saccharified raw biomass is then treated with the enzymes and microorganisms in the fermentation process so that the ethanol and other components are produced. These are distilled, dehydrated, and then adopted as fuel by addition of certain additives like knocking factors, anti-knocking factors, etc. And then they can be used for heat and power production. So this is again further description of the whole process, in which, for example, in taking from wood, you proceed for pulping process, and the pulp which is obtained containing a high proportion of the cellulose is used for paper production, and the black liquor which contains large proportion of lignin is processed in the lignin plant and through a lignin oxidation route is used for production of phenolic compounds and other value-added products. Whereas the whole lignin can be used for synthesis of biopolymers and composites. Okay. Lignin can also be utilized as a source of energy. So especially in the large paper plants where a closed loop system is there whatever craft liquor is prepared, it is the craft liquor is dried. That is, the water part is heated up and removed, and the dried lignin is then pressurized and converted into blocks. So blocks of energy yielding lignin. So that is how the lignin can be used as a source of energy, direct source of fuel. Otherwise, it can be converted into a variety of value-added products and also can be converted into fuel additives. Okay, so this is how the lignin from coming from the wood with the help of catalyst can convert into aromatic products. So one thing about lignin is that while I was working on that is that, for example, here when we talk of converting the lignin into pressurized lignin blocks, it is more like converting the carbon compound into coal or strong fuel. So under pressure, although the amount of energy which will be utilized will be also substantial, but the lignin can be converted into blocks of energy yielding compounds. At the same time, it can be degraded to produce the useful components. Okay, it can, as a whole, when you take whole lignin, it can be used as a component polymers, fillers, etc. because of its binding. So it is difficult to uh, term lignin as waste. I won't be able to accept it. Cellulose, obviously, you use it, and we have been using it as a source of yeah, food, as a source of sugars, etc. Uh, but lignin has been kind of sidelined, has not been given due uh, recognition. And now people are using this lignin and have working on the lignin based economy. So I have seen many papers and reviews which are coming in recent past, which talk of lignin as the uh, a golden source of a variety of components, a major economic booster for the farmers and industry. So the only thing is that how you utilize it, how you use it properly. Now, in the second part of this presentation, I'll be also discussing what we have actually done because it is easier to propagate that there can be a multifaceted application of lignin and other compounds, and to report from literature and the resources which are available that lignin can be used for this particular application or that particular application. But unless you use it, unless you have actually performed that experiment, you cannot be sure that it is actually working. So, uh, frankly, I'm kind of biased towards lignin, and I feel it has got so many applications that given lignin, I can make anything of it. And we have been working in labs with that also. And after my PhD, I tried to move beyond lignin. I thought that I should. I've worked on degradation of lignin, so probably I should work on enzyme. Probably I should work on some molecular aspect. But somehow lignin pulled me back, and instead of degrading lignin, we started finding its uses and application. So the first query was whether the lignin is uh, which is present in the wood system or is present in the wood, how exactly that particular lignin differ from uh, when you extract it. Because when we take the lignin by extract the lignin by alkali process or acid process or by using the solvent, in that case, during the extraction process, which is normally very harsh process, the amount of lignin which is extracted, the yield may differ, obviously, depending upon the solubility and the property of lignin. But once the lignin has been extracted, uh, how much of that particular lignin is same as that it was in plant? In plant system, when you take out that particular from the plant system, when you take out that particular lignin, you have employed a variety of processes, including oxidation, in some cases reduction, and sulfonation, etc. So hydrolysis. So these processes may tend to not only break the lignin bond with cellulose and hemicellulose, it may also modify and transform lignin significantly. So their property may also differ. Then the second thing is how much of the yield, how exactly you can find out which particular process has the maximum yield. So this is what was our idea and the objective, and based on that, our first project was on this the variability in the lignin by use of physicochemical and biological process during the extraction process. So we have used different extraction processes and extracted the lignin, saw its overall measured its yield, and then went on to study their uh, structural property. And besides the structural property, we also have tested its some of its biological properties and its function, so that it can be correlated with the modifications or changes which has occurred in the lignin structure. Okay. Then we obviously the work has been published and project completed. We obviously find that the highest yield is with alkali process, and however the enzyme extracted lignin has least modification, or the microbial process based extraction has the least modified lignin, and it is quite useful in many processes, especially for the therapeutic application. However, for practical purposes, we can also use a alkali lignin if we want lignin in large amount. Now, in this part, I'll be discussing one application through the paper which we have published. For example, this paper was published in Iranian Polymer Journal, it's a very old journal. In this, we have discussed the physicochemical properties of lignin alginate film in the presence of different plasticizers. Uh, in this work, a lignin alginate blended film was prepared in presence of three different plasticizers like glycerol, epichlorohydrin, and polyethylene glycol. And the effect of each plasticizer was studied on physical properties of the blended lignin. Lignin extracted from acacia. Now, why we chose acacia? Is for that in Chhattisgarh and central India, and especially the past of western uh, India, the acacia is quite common. Acacia means babool, and it is a kind of unwanted plant. It can easily grow in large tract, relatively dry atmosphere, and although it has got uh, uses in timber industry, and is one of the plants which can be easily cut off without taking major permission. So there are not much restriction on this plant also, and it is quite common. Besides that, we also use the rice straw, which is quite common in Chhattisgarh and central India for extraction of the lignin. Now, lignin was thus extracted from acacia wood by alkali extraction process, and then was blended with alginate to obtain lignin alginate film in the presence of different plasticizers. A film plasticized with glycerol displayed high solubility and swelling percentage as compared to uh, EPC and PEG plasticized film. EPC means epichlorohydrin and polyethylene glycol plasticized film. The highest, uh, the highest tensile strength of that particular polymer was observed for film plasticized with PEG, and none of the plasticizers made any significant change on the bursting index of the film. Okay. Incorporation of the lignin considerably improved the light barrier properties of the film. A 3IR study of the film suggested the existence of hydrogen bonding between lignin alginate in presence of plasticizers. Then, in addition, the EPC, that is epichlorohydrin, plasticized film displayed a highest thermal stability as confirmed by the thermogravimetric analysis. Further studies demonstrated that the plasticizer significantly affected the physicochemical properties of the blended film. In conclusion, the lignin alginate film plasticized with EPC presented better physico-mechanical and light barrier properties which can be used in packaging and coating uh, application. So here, this is important that they should uh, be useful in a way that they should have light barrier property and higher strength property. Because if you are using it as packaging material as alternative to the petroleum-based product, the petroleum-based product like polyethylene, etc., they have a high tensile and bursting index, extremely high strength property, as well as some of them, with the help of a specific compounds or modification, have good light barrier property. So if you want to have a bio-based polymeric film, which can be used for the packaging application, then you also have to have a compatible strength as well as the light barrier property. These are some of the polymers which we have produced using lignin, and this is the process by which, although it is of chitosan, but uh, electrospinning process is being used for synthesis of polymers. These are the results of physicochemical properties or lignin alginate film in presence of different plasticizers. We have seen thickness, moisture content, water solubility, swelling properties, bursting index, and tensile strength. Okay, this is another example of lignin gelatin-based blended film. So here it was lignin alginate. Here we have used the gelatin along with the lignin for preparing different films and studied their properties. This is the AFM atomic force microscopic topographical images of the LJ film, and that 3D visualization so as to see the uniformity of their surface and the scattering of the lignin throughout the surface. Now we are talking about the light barrier property, why it is essential, because it's a food grade product. In that case, if the light penetrates through the packaging material, the UV light has a tendency to modify the structure of, especially the non-covalent and structure of the food material, and it leads to aging of effect on the food material. It easily deteriorates, its shelf life decreases, and to avoid that, you need to have packaging material which should be able to absorb that UV rays and will allow minimum penetration of the ultraviolet rays, thereby extending the shelf life of the food material. We also seen the drug release study of this polymer. Uh, Drug release study means what? Uh, whenever you take any drug, you want that drug to sustain or remain in your body for a long duration. Uh, that is, the half life of drug should be long, because you don't want to pop up the drug or medicine or tablet again and again to maintain its concentration at high level in your body, in your system. So you need to maintain a constant concentration of the drug in your body, and for maintaining that, you need to continuously take the drug, because our system will keep on breaking those. You take the or consume the drug in a large excess, in a large concentration, part of which is then absorbed, parts of which is detoxified and degraded, and is continuously broken down to be removed from the excretory system. So in drug release study, what we have proposed or hypothesized is that if we can use the polymer for slow release of the drug. So you take a large concentration of the drug, and then allow slow release into the circulation. In that case, what will happen is that slowly the drug will be uh, released into the circulatory system, into the body, and will keep on a high concentration or the required threshold concentration of that particular drug in the system. So at different pH and in the in vivo mimic conditions, we have studied that, and we found some promising results that it was able to sustain the drug release for a long duration. This is another work which deals with was published in Biotechnology Reports, a good journal. It in which we have used the rice husk extracted lignin with the TUS uh, for synthesis of the biocomposite. Okay, so our idea was use of the organic and inorganic hybrid, that is the silica and organic hybrid, using the soul gel technique, so that we can achieve uh, a polymeric composite, which should have prolonged exposure to the various conditions like UV, and should have a higher strength properties uh, and the other value added properties which we are looking for. So in this, we have used the lignin POS composite. So in this, what exactly we did was lignocellulosic composite was synthesized from pre-extracted lignin of rice husk using TUS as a matrix. The extracted lignins were subjected to the surface modification by acetylation, followed by in situ synthesis of lignin silicate composites by sol gel method for application in the nickel removal. The lignosilicate were characterized by FTI scanning wave from microscopy for their kind of bonds which were formed, for seeing the overall structure, the morphological structure, and then for uh, observing their strength property in presence of uh, mm, in different temperature conditions, their particle size distribution, and AS was used for their to see their ability to bind the nickel. The FTIR study showed that acetyl group in the range of 1650 to 1690 per centimeter, uh, whereas for absorbed lignin, the uh, band appeared at 870 per centimeter. Findings suggest that the alkali extracted lignosilicate with mean pHD of 14.89 nanometer and thermally were more stable with TM at 37 degrees centigrade than ethanol and hot water extracted lignin and exhibit potential for nickel removal. SEM and pHD analysis confirm their rust surfaces and dispersive nature, respectively, suitable for metal absorption. So this was one application for which we have tried synthesizing the lignosilicate. Now, when we talk of metal absorption, it also means that it can interact with metal. So, for making the inorganic metal composites, uh, this lignosilicate can be quite useful. So, you have got a thermally stable organic compound which can bind not only with silica but can also can bind with the metals. So you can imagine how useful this hybrid can be, and obviously all the three components will impart uh, quite a large amount of strength property to this composite material. So We have also used it for preparation of nanoparticles and nano composites. And uh, this is the images of uh, lignin to use hybrid. The rice husk, which is untreated and chemically modified lignin, was used, and which shows the pores of the lignin in the surface, the different type of lignin sulfonate silicate, and their structure is here compared. This is what we have done, that is the lignosilicate composites we are using the column as the binding material, and the metal solution was passed through that particular column and then was eluted, and binding was assessed, so how much of the metal is bound by or removed by the lignin, lignosilicate composite. Now, another idea was that, as you can see in this diagram, there is quite a similarity of the lignin structure with fulvic acid and humic acid. And in fact, a part of the humus which composed of humic acid, fulvic acid, and other acids comes from lignin and tannins, etc., which are a polyphenol and plant cell wall components. So these humic acid and fulvic acid have tendency to improve the plant growth. They are plant growth promoting in nature. So this, using this particular hypothesis, we have used the lignin and the modified lignin for to assess the growth of plant. So these are the images showing unique growth pattern of the roots in presence of lignin TUSN uh, uh, and the other modified lignins. See? So here this is the plain lignin, then this is with TUS, and this is with lignin TUS composite. Okay. So here we have seen the growth of the plant system. These are the structural and other spectral property of those composites. These are the particle size distribution and the thermal property of composite. Okay. So in this we have suggested that the lignin tend to improve the root hair, especially the lignin silicate composite, tend to improve the root hair growth and thereby improve help in increasing the root growth and then the plant growth. So if we can use the lignin silicate as a uh, along with US a as binders with fertilizers, they can help in overall plant growth. This is another about which we already discussed, is that the synthesis and characterization of acacia and lignin gelatin film for its possible application in food packaging. And this we have used the acacia lignin and gelatin blended film using glycerol as plasticizer to establish the correlation between lignin content and structural, thermal, and mechanical property of the film. Acacia lignin extracted by alkali method was used for the preparation of algae blended film by, by solution casting method. In results which we found that solubility and swelling test of the lignin films concluded that the lignin incorporation reduced water affinity of the film. It is important for the food packaging application and packaging application because you need relatively hydrophobic films and hydrophobic packaging material. Lignin incorporation produces a noticeable plasticizing effect on the blended film, showing optimum value of film incorporated with 20 and 30% lignin as deduced from their mechanical and thermal property. Lignin blended film had lower glass transition temperature as compared to controlled gelatin. Infrared spectroscopy analysis of film suggested that Lignin interact with gelatin by hydrogen bonding and hydrophobic interaction, consequently creating conformational change. Atomic force microscopy study displayed smooth surfaces of the synthesized film. Light barrier properties of film reveal that the light lignin addition improved barrier properties against UV light in the range of 280 to 350 nanometer. Further, the lowest scavenging activity was observed in the different modified type of lignin gelatin blends. So the lignin gelatin film showed improved light barrier and antioxidant properties with low cytotoxicity, and they also displayed great potential in food packaging and coating for preventing ultraviolet-induced lipid oxidation, which can extend the biomedical application. These are the results of their structural properties. Then another application is lignin-based resins and adhesive. Lignin can be converted into sticky resin-like material. In fact, lignin-based resin has been also used for preparation of the ply boards and uh, uh, wood boards for sticking of the material. In fact, while I have incorporated lignin-based many experiments in my MSc program, and in that the resin which we prepare and the composite which we prepare, what we do is that we use it for repairing of furnitures. Like in some cases, the sun mica surface is removed. A part of tile has been removed or is broken. Some plastic material is broken, etc. So the resin is used there to bind and stick those materials. So and it is quite useful. It has got extremely a high strength property. That is why once it has been used, it can be used for long duration without causing any change in the material. So whatever experiments which are doing in your PhD or uh, along with your with PhD students should trickle down to the PG program or the UG program as per need. This was a paper which was published on synthesis, characterization, and metal absorption capacity of acacia lignin-based resin, in which we focused on synthesis of eco-friendly adhesive based on acacia lignin, in which the acacia lignin extracted from acacia wood was used for preparation of bio-based resin. Resin was synthesized using lignin as a replacement of petroleum-based phenol through condensation polymerization reaction catalyzed by sodium hydroxide. The structural characterization was performed using FTIR, DSC, differential scanning calorimetry, then thermogravimetric analysis to measure the gas transition temperature and thermal degradation respectively. And the FTIR revealed that acacia lignin resin is resemblance with controlled resin along with high activity. DSC study suggested that acacia lignin based resin exhibited higher glass transition temperature as compared to commercial lignosulfonate based resin. The weight loss rate of the synthesized lignin based resin presented slightly different weight loss curve, where in the main pyrolysis stage it was observed between 200 to 515 degrees centigrade. The formulated acacia lignin based resin exhibited uniform morphology and enhanced temperature stability compared with commercial lignosulfonate based resin. Further, the highest metal absorption capacity was also presented by the alkali lignin, that is up to 86%, followed by lignosulfonate based resin. The improved property of the product were attributed to the increased covalent interaction between phenol, formaldehyde, and lignin. This lignin based resin thus can be utilized as the adhesive as well as the formation of composite material. In fact, we are using it, as I already mentioned it, in our experiment, and I am also consultant, although I am not mentioned in see, I'm also consultant to some of the industries, and there also I have used this particular lignin and lignin-based products for many of their problems which they came across. So these are photograph and the proposed mechanism of the synthesis of lignin-based resins, the spectrophotometric applications, data, DSC data of the resin, and then some TGA data for the resin. So this is one of the application. Then this thing which we have already discussed a bit, that is synthesis and characterization of crystalline carboxymethylated lignin used nanocomposite for metal absorption and antibacterial activity. In this, what we have done is that we have modified lignin, carboxymethylated it, so that its structural properties are modified. So if you acetylate the lignin, it becomes more hydrophilic. But if you carboxymethylate it, its structural property will and surface is partly modified, as well as its ionic status is also changed. So by using that, then we further made a composite of carboxyl methylated lignin with the tetrahydroxysilane, that is CUS, and this was utilized for this was assessed using analyzed using UV spectroscopy, FTI, SAM XRD, we observed its diameter between, and then we went on to see its changes in the crystallinity, and the porous structure of the nanocomposite was studied, and its binding with the nickel and cadmium, and its absorption was also measured, which was quite significant. It was further investigated to assess their future application as wound dressing and antimicrobial packaging agents. Based on antimicrobial properties and potential to remediate toxic heavy metals, the composites are proposed to be used for wastewater treatment as packaging material and for preparation of biofilters for environmental protection. So these are the results of that material. These are visual observation of the carboxymethylated lignin TUS composite. Okay, and when we kept on increasing the concentration of TUS, then visual appearance and their antimicrobial activity was also measured. These are FTI spectra, the kind of changes in the bond which occur. This is scanning electron microscopy, XRD, and the absorption of cadmium and nickel at a different concentration. Then these changes in the physicochemical conditions can affect the nickel and cadmium absorption, and the how pH shaking time can affect the binding. Okay. In this paper, we have modified the surface through acetylation and silane treatment. So the work is similar, so I will not go into detail. So here also the binding was observed. It is another work in which novel nanocomposites were tested for selective antibacterial action and low cytotoxic effect on eukaryotic cells. It's a collaborative work which was published in International Journal of Biological Macromolecules. And in this study, we synthesized lignin towards nanocomposites and had characterized it using various techniques, including FTI, DSC, etc. And their antibacterial activity against some of the organisms like Pseudomonas aeruginosa, E. coli, Bacillus subtilis, Staphylococcus aureus were studied. And we also tested its cytotoxicity against various tissue-specific cancer lines, such as breast cancer lines, MCF7, then cancer lines, MD, MB231, MD, MB468, BB459, lung cancer cell lines, and prostate cancer cell lines, and as well as the primary control cells like hepatotic stellate cells. The study suggested that the possible transition of this nanocomposite as an antimicrobial agent for wound dressing with its potent antimicrobial activity with low toxicity to non-target eukaryotic cells. Nevertheless, these nanocomposites may also be used as packaging material due to their antimicrobial activity. So, the hypothesis of application of this nanocomposite was this that they can be used in wound dressing. So, if they want antimicrobial activity or and are not cytotoxic to the normal cell. We have tested different cell lines, including the cancer cell lines. So we want to see whether it has any impact on cancer cell lines or normal cell lines. We found that it does not have any cytotoxic effect in any type of cell line. So it is non-toxic to normal eukaryotic cell, and but it is toxic to the bacteria. So these composites can be thus used as antibacterial wound dressing, where you can use the biodegradable dressing. In itself, it will have the ability to kill the bacteria, to stop the bacteria without causing any cytotoxicity to the cells. So these are the structural features. In one of our recent study, uh, which is a collaborative effect work also, which is green synthesis of silver nanoparticle using cassia lignin and their cytotoxicity, catalytic metal sensing ability, and antibacterial activity. Uh, we have used the lignin for synthesis of nanoparticles and also stabilization of those particular nanoparticles, and how this lignin along with this nanoparticle will have a synergistic effect on the overall properties. This was studied. It is again an international collaboration, and uh, this the in vitro cytotoxicity, the metal sensing property, catalytic and antibacterial property of lignin functionalized silver nanoparticle were used. Fabricated silver nanoparticle were characterized using spectroscopy, particle size, SEM10, XRD, and the surface plasmon resonance peak of AGNP was also recorded. And their shape and average diameter was measured, and their cytotoxicity assay was carried out to see whether they are toxic or non-toxic. They proved out to be non-toxic. Uh, Whereas the at concentration of 5 to 50 microgram, which is extremely high concentration, they showed some toxicity. They were also they also show good catalytic activity with a rate constant of 0.0098 and 0.012525 for methylene blue dye decolorization and for paranitrophenol reduction. Moreover, the uh, silver nanoparticle displayed antibacterial efficacy against both gram-positive and negative strain. These findings suggest that lignin-mediated AGNP can find application in different fields, including biomedical, drug delivery, textile, biosensor, uh, food packaging material, and textile. Okay, so these are some of the areas in which it can be used. Another work was the synthesis and characterization of silver nanoparticle loaded PV polyvinyl alcohol, lignin spun nanofibers and their antimicrobial activity. So we have synthesized nanofibers uh, containing with lignin and which were loaded with the silver nanoparticle. Yeah, this is the overall outline of how exactly the process was carried out using the electrospinning. We combined the lignin PVA solution with pre-synthesized nanoparticle, which was stirred at for 1 hour at 80 degree. And best part with lignin is that it does not allow the agglomeration of the lignin of the silver nanoparticle, which is a major issue with these metal-based nanoparticle. The agglomeration leads to conversion of them into macro-sized particle and losing their quantum Lin effect. So this electrospinning was carried out so that the lignin PVA nanofibers incorporated with silver nanoparticles can be synthesized. And this ultrafine nanofiber mats of the acacia lignin and PVA incorporated with silver nanoparticles were fabricated using the electrospinning technique. The fiber morphology of the resultant nanofiber was characterized using scanning electron microscopy, and the average diameter was in the range of 100 to 300 nanometer. The existence of silver nanoparticle was confirmed by XRD, and the antimicrobial activity of these nanofibers containing silver nanoparticle was tested against Bacillus circulans and E. coli and showed significant results against both microorganisms. The results revealed that the PL nanofiber containing silver nanoparticles may have potential application as membrane filtration, antimicrobial fabrics, and wound dressing material. These are the picture of the nanofiber film which we have created. The microscopic images of how exactly the fiber and network look like. And how these are the scattering of the silver nanoparticles in the fiber. Okay, we skip it. Then this is again the study of free radical scavenging and releasing power of acacia nilotical wood lignin, in which we have taken different fractions of lignin, about which I had discussed that using different methods for lignin extraction, different type of lignin were used, and their phenolic and hydroxyphenolic content was tested, and then their free radical scavenging activity was measured, and then we also checked the influence of extraction methods on functional groups of lignin fraction by FTR, and we found that the phenolic content showed strong correlation with reducing capacity, and anti-radical activity, however, was moderately correlated with phenolic content. Okay, so another work was there in which we have gone through in vitro evaluation of antioxidant and cytotoxic activity of lignin fraction extracted from acacia nilotica. And again, this we have checked the polyphenolic content and how exactly it affects the DPPH and ABTS radical scavenging assay was measured. This is the synergistic antibacterial antifilm biofilm activity of silver nanoparticle biosynthesized by lignin degrading fungi. In this, we have used uh, uh, the enzymes isolated from the lignin degrading fungus like Aspergillus flavus and Emerschia nidulans. So they are not actually lignin degrading, but rather lignin modifying enzymes. So their enzymes were used for reduction of the AgNO3 and for synthesis of cellular nanoparticles. And these the nanoparticle synthesized using these enzymes were then used for testing their antibacterial activity and ability to remove the biofilm formed by many of these bacteria. And here we have also used an enzyme as a capping agent with the nanoparticle. Okay. Here we have used it was outcome of another project in which the lignin polylactic acid film was synthesized, and this lignin polylactic acid film was synthesized using the stannous chloride as one of the catalysts, and it was studied using SEM, XRD, DSC, TJ, etc. And we found that the uh, lignin and PLA matrix are slightly rough surface, but the film was thermostable and amorphous nature. Uh, Significant improvement was observed in antimicrobial activity and biodegradability of PLA film after addition of lignin, which suggests the putative application of lignin PLA as the food packaging and mulch film material. So we wanted to use it as this lignin polylactic acid film as a mulch film, which is used in the horticulture to avoid the growth of weeds. And if it is biodegradable in nature under specific condition, then after degradation, this lignin can and polylactic acid can help in improving the fertility of the uh, soil. So in the initial stage, it will when it is in a polymeric form in the form of film, it will suppress the growth of weed, and when it is degraded, then it will act as a fertilizer. So in that way, dual purpose will be solved. It is another work in which hydrogen peroxide sensing and cytotoxic activity of acacia lignin stabilized silver nanoparticle was used. So here we have tried to use those lignin stabilized nanoparticle as the catalyst and biosensors. This is biodegradation, uh, and we in which we have given a specific pathway also for biodegradation. These are some of the products which we have made. Some of the photographs are not here, but many of the products, including this is the raw material like husk and acacia lignin, and the extracted biomaterial was converted to resin, composites, foam, then biodegradable film, etc. These are some commercially available lignin-based products, including carbon fibers, house products, concrete, aerogel. Now, name aerogel comes because it is extremely light in nature. Then they are also used, lignin-based products are also used for road dust controller. That is, you spray the lignin, will bind with the dust particles and will not allow them to scatter. They are used in concrete additives. So it concrete mainly contains large amount of calcium, so it lignin binds with the calcium and suppresses the cracking in the or fractures in the concrete. Carbon fibers, I already shown that we have also synthesized these fibers. Hydrogel also can be prepared. So with this, time, I thank you all. If there are any queries, I'll be happy to take those queries.
So all the attendees are requested, in case if you have any queries, you can always unmute yourself and talk to our resource person directly, or you can also type in your queries in the chat box.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Can I ask you sir questions? I have a lot more questions to ask.
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay with you? Okay. The first one is the lignin directly reacts with cellulose or hemicellulose in plants.
Actually, the biggest important thing is about lignin is that through hemicellulose, it interacts with the cellulose. So hemicellulose is a kind of bridge between lignin and cellulose. But
Okay.
the thing is that depending upon plant, sometimes it may also react with cellulose. But mostly the cellulose are crystalline in nature, and due to the crystalline nature of cellulose, uh, it can get intermeshed with the cellulose, uh, but cannot directly have a chemical reaction with cellulose. But with hemicellulose, it may react.
Okay. Okay, I got it out because when I was searching, I mean, when I was reading about lignin, it everywhere says that lignin was directly reacts with cellulose, and these are formed in plants and like that. So
Mhm.
that's why I got that out.
Now, cellulose in the cellulose bag. Actually, if you go through the structure of cellulose, it is crystalline in nature, but sometimes it also acquires a helical structure. So the due to that, the lignin and the compound get enmeshed. They help in binding the cellulose and hemicellulose together. So depending upon plant system, they may interact with cellulose, but cellulose is relatively inert molecule, except if you go through the structure. So it is a relatively inert molecule when it is present in the cell wall. So the hemicelluloses are the molecules which help in actual interaction between the lignin and other compounds. So that we have also seen when we have used the hemicellulases uh, uh, in the to the plant system during the biopulping processes. So when you use hemicellulases and when the hemicellulases are broken down, the lignin can be easily removed even with water, with hot water. So somehow it also suggests that like seeing is believing. So that is why I also propose that through hemicellulose, the interaction between celluloses and lignin takes place. Although it cannot be discounted that in some cases the lignin may interact with cellulose.
Okay, okay. So another question is,
Mhm,
when we are going to use gel permeation chromatography,
mhm,
we derivatize the lignin with some solvents like acetic anhydride or pyridine. Why do
mhm.
we do that derivatization? Directly can't we use lignin?
For gel permeation, actually, when we go for a gas chromatography, derivatization is important, especially if you are using which kind of chromatography. It is normal phase or reverse phase chromatography. Depending upon that, the derivatization is important, especially for gas chromatography. As for gel permeation, as far as I know, if you're using simple gel permeation chromatography, the derivatization may not be required because it is size exclusion chromatography. So,
Okay.
if you are using plain lignin, so there the derivatization may not be required. But for wherever you want it to convert it into, say, relatively, you want to suppress its charges or add certain charges in it so that the purification or separation or resolution can be improved. There you use the derivatization process.
Okay, okay.
In some
So
cases, the non-volatile components can be also converted into volatile components by using derivatization process.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So what are the best catalysts that can degrade lignin?
Actually, the best way to degrade lignin is uh, when we are like if you are using for extraction of lignin or breakdown of lignin, that is for what exactly you want do you want to know?
I mean,
Is it
for
for degradation of lignin or for extraction of lignin?
degradation, for separating from plant residues,
From
for study.
for separating normally as I have suggested that if you use a strong acid, the extraction becomes easier,
Okay.
so it can be easily solubilized. But alkali lignin is what, in presence of sulfoxides, which is used in the uh, paper industry. So they use alkali extraction process in high pressure and presence of steam and in presence of sulfoxides for removal of lignin.
Okay. 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 And another question. Can we estimate or isolate the cellular, I mean, content, I mean, value of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin in organic manure?
In manure, yes, you can. by
Can you suggest some
by
methods for
different
using it?
you need to obviously separate them and extract them separately. And then, for example, the hemicelluloses can be precipitated out using the solvent like ethanol or acetone at a specific concentration. And once you have separated them, the remaining part is uh, the lignin remains in the solvent phase, and the cellulose remains in the solid phase. So you can dry them and then estimate.
Okay, okay. Before you said that alkaline lignin is used to degrade the lignin. I
No,
mean,
alkali lignin is not used. Alkaline conditions in
oh,
presence of high pressure and temperature is used in paper industry for removal of lignin.
okay. And when I was doing some research on this lignin topic, I got
Mm.
to know about the soda lignin. Do you
Mm.
know anything about soda lignin? Lignin.
Soda lignin means that only where you use alkaline conditions for removal of lignin, and that alkaline traces remain along with the lignin. For example, uh, craft lignin is also one of that example of alkali lignin. So in craft process also the uh, high concentration of sodium hydroxide and sodium sulfides are used. So after extraction process, all that lignin comes out as black liquor, or which is also known as craft liquor. Now this, when you precipitate that, it forms lignin sulfonates, and this precipitated lignin is also sometimes referred to as alkali lignin. Similarly, the soda lignin, when you use the alkaline conditions for removal of lignin. So the traces or the lignin, as you know, is a charged molecule. So obviously, under alkaline condition, it will also have slightly negative charge. So it will tend to bind with any cation which is present, obviously, which contains, say, for example, if you are using sodium, in that case, it will bind with sodium. And then the precipitate which we obtain will be uh, sodium lignin, or lignin if it is sulfur containing group, then lignin sulfonate cell. So the kind of extraction process which you use, and after that when you precipitate out the lignin, the traces of the chemicals which you have used in the extraction will also give it a specific name. For example, there is acid lignin. So when you go for acid extraction using sulfuric acid, in that case, the lignin which you obtain after precipitation would be called as acid lignin. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So it is the process by which you are extracting the lignin, and after that, whatever uh, uh, product is obtained, the residue is obtained, will obviously contain the chemicals which you have used for extraction. That is why the ozone and hydrogen peroxide is preferred, because they will not leave any traces. They will not be remain present along with the lignin, but they
Yes,
are quite costly.
yes,
They are
yes.
quite efficient, but very costly. And then chlorine. Uh, the chlorine is also quite efficient, but it is very toxic. I had an accident with that chlorine while we were working with that
Oh,
bleaching process, and I had congestion in my lungs for almost 10 days.
oh, that much very efficient. Yeah, okay. You mentioned about nanoparticles, right?
Hmm.
In the before slide. I mean, do these nanoparticles cause any changes in the genes of lignin?
I didn't get your question.
I mean, do these nanoparticles cause any changes or in genes of lignin? Gene,
Genes,
yeah, genes.
uh, nanoparticle. I didn't get you. Genes are together different thing. Like there are many enzymes which are required for synthesis of an lignin. However, nanoparticle which I have discussed are formed from the isolated lignin and silver nanoparticle. So nanofibers we have used for that we have used the pure lignin, and for nanoparticle we have used the silver nanoparticle. So if obviously if you use nanoparticle in a cellular system, probably they may mutate the genes because they are quite highly reactive. But again,
Yes.
they should be stable enough and they should be able to cross the plant cell wall. Because it is difficult for the nanoparticle to easily cross the cell wall and reach the DNA without getting changed. So you need a proper delivery system for nanoparticles so they can reach the genome and then cause the selective damage or mutation into the genes.
Yes. Yes.
So
Okay.
this is what I feel.
Yeah. Okay. And
Did I? Was what you were asking or anything?
what? Excuse me. Hello.
Yes.
I didn't get your question. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes. Who is speaking?
I'm Srishna.
Okay.
Okay. Lignin have STTP monomers, right?
Hmm.
Can we quantify those in plant tissues separately?
Plant.
Tissues. Tissue.
Yeah, we can. As I already mentioned, that you need to first extract the lignin, and using the different processes, whether what kind of lignin, if it is a volatile fraction or non-volatile fraction, we can subject it to GCMS or LCMS, and then quantify their using the standards. You can quantify their quantity.
Okay. Separately, we can quantify, right?
Yeah,
By
yeah,
using
sep-
methods.
separately. You should have a standard of those components. Yeah.
Okay. 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 Thank you so much for
Okay.
qualifying. Thank you.
There are other questions also. I'll take one by one. This is Parthi uh, Parasmasivam. Uh, can any abnormalities occur to the soil or environment by lignin when disposed? Uh, Lignin is much more older than uh, any of us. So uh, uh, obviously, it is second most abundant compound found in the environment, and it is a bottleneck in the carbon cycle. So it tends to accumulate in the soil. But there are many lignolytic enzymes which are present, including many basidiomycetes, which tend to partially degrade it into humus-like substances and also recycle those lignin molecule, which can be further later utilized by the plant. But that and then this process is relatively slow. So that is why cellulose and lignin remains two of the major compounds coming out from plant system, which uh, uh, which are not easily degraded. They are then later converted into lignins and lignites, etc. So a part of the coal also. Uh, the other questions. Aarti also has another question. What about the affinity of lignin to waste when compared to other method and components in sewage water treatment? See, it depends upon kind of waste we are using. In some cases, if it is proteinaceous waste, lignin will tend to precipitate them. And if it is metallic waste, free metallic waste, it will tend to bind them. But obviously, the whole process will depend upon what kind of waste we are using for treatment process. So with metal ions, it will bind. With protein, it will tend to precipitate. With some of the carbohydrates, it will also link. But lignin obviously will not be able to degrade the waste product. Can cross-linking, Dr. Khushbu has asked, can cross-linking and halogen bonding on the surface of lignocellulosic fibers may be determined or measured? Cross-linking, especially many of the covalent bonds can be measured using the FTIR. And also there is a shift in the DSC pattern, that is calorimetric pattern. It may suggest that there is a change in the pattern of bond. With NMR, probably we can find the exact nature of the bond. So yes, there are methods which can determine the bonding pattern and cross-linking. How to change the surface charge of cellulose from negative to positive, as sometimes it interrupts interaction with the negative charges. The simplest method is to use the acidic condition. So if you use slightly acidic condition, in that case, obviously the total ionic status of the molecule will change and will tend to become slightly uh, uh, positive. If you don't want to use change the pH in that case, there are other molecules which tend to change the ionic status. So those molecules can be used, which will help in binding the negatively charged groups and uh, converting into relatively positively charged conditions. For example, we have used selenation and acetylation, etc. Uh, Selenation is obviously used for making the molecule relatively more hydrophobic in nature. So if you want to convert them molecule relatively hydrophobic things, in that case you can go for selenation. Methylation and acetylation processes can be useful. Is there any cons of green food or drug industry? Lignin have some advantages as well as some disadvantages. As we have mentioned that in feed, especially, it causes problems. So for animal system, the presence of lignin, it's the anti-nutritional factor in a way. So it will not allow the proper utilization or digestion of if the lignin is present, uh, utilization, digestion of the cellulose. Similarly, in food also, if lignin is present, it cannot be easily digested. So that is a negative impact. But a positive is that it is a strong antioxidant component, polyphenolic in nature. So for diabetic conditions, it is quite useful for it is antioxidant and anti-cancer and anti-aging in nature.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one more question,
Mhm.
sir. I just want to know that for estimation of lignin and cellulose and hemicellulose, what are
Mhm.
the methods when we go for organic manuring and biochar?
Mhm. I didn't get your question. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, sir, actually, I just want to know the method of estimation for lignin, cellulose, and hemicellulose in organic manure and biochar.
Dr. Khushbu, the methods remain standard. There are certain standard methods. So I won't be able to, like, for example, if you want to just see the phenolic or polyphenolic, so there are based method which is used for estimation of total lignin in a given solution. But there are other methods also where gravimetric methods which you can use for estimation of lignin, cellulose, and hemicelluloses. The gravimetric method will involve the alkaline removal of the lignin, and the liquor which is removed can be treated with the solvent for precipitation of hemicelluloses, and the remaining liquid or the supernatant will be then further used for the estimation of lignin using Follian-Dennis method. And the cellulose will can be measured by gravimetric analysis. But there are many more methods. For example, total carbohydrate or cellulose can be used for by using the Anthron reaction or Anthron method. So once you have isolated or removed the cellulose, and the hemicellulose, however, have to be removed before estimation of the cellulose. Okay, and once you have precipitated the hemicellulose, then you can use the Enthon reaction for the uh, or phenol sulfuric acid reaction for estimation of total hemicellulose or the carbohydrate in or total carbohydrate in that particular hemicellulose fraction. So you need to actually fractionate any sample, and then only you will be able to measure the individual component. Without fractionation or separating the components, it will be a bit difficult to measure individual components. For example, like for any plant, animal cell, if you want to measure DNA, RNA, and protein simultaneously, you need to separate all these three, and then only you will be able to measure actual composition. So first step should be the fractionation, and then after fractionation you can use multiple methods which are available, any of those methods for estimation. So you can I already given some my papers. Many of these papers are freely available, and you can use those particular papers in which we have also mentioned the method for estimation.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for your nice presentation and satisfying the query. Thank you.
Any other query?
Attending members are requested, in case if there are any other questions, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can also talk to our and or you can also type in your query in the chat box. Well, I suppose, sir, that there are no more queries. I must say that this session was a huge success.
Thank you, Vishnu.
That were raised, and each candidate, like it is candidates who have raised more than 5 individuals. So I must say that the session was a huge success. Ballarpur Institute of Technology, Ballarpur, and on behalf of the organizing committee of this short-term training program, I thank you, Dr. Harit sir, for conducting such a wonderful session and such an in-depth session. And I would also, in the future, contact you more often. Pages of our short-term training program, we will again request you to be our honorable resource person.
Sure, sure. I also thank you, the Ballarpur Institute of Technology, for inviting me for the talk. It was nice interacting with all the participants, and I am happy that they interacted and had queries. And if they can always contact me if they have any further queries. Many of my publications are also available, so I can send those publication, or they can download those publication for. I think that will help them to remove many of their queries. Thank you again, Abhishek. Thank you, Ballarpur Institute of Technology, and their management for inviting me.
Yes, sir.
I'll
So,
take it.
yes, sir. Thank you so much once again, sir, for such a wonderful session. And I would also share your email ID with the attending members so that in case if they have any other queries, they can
They
also.
can have it.
Okay, so all the attending members are now requested that the link to share feedback of this session will be shared shortly on the WhatsApp group, and you are all requested to please fill in the feedback form. And the link will remain open only till 11 p.m. tonight, so please fill in the feedback before 11 p.m. tonight. Also, we will now take a recess, and our session will resume at 3:15 p.m. So it is 15 past 3 in the noon, that is 45 minutes from now. You are all requested to please join us by 3:10 p.m., that is 10 past 3, so that we can start the session sharp at 3:15 p.m. You can always while joining, you can use the very same link which you have used to connect to us or to join this meeting in the morning. So the very same link will remain valid for the afternoon session as well. Thank you very much for attending the session, and we look forward that you will attend our next session as well. See you at 3:10 p.m. Thank you so much.